we know that flood risk is growing. The Environment Agency finds like 1 in 6 properties, or almost 70%, are at heightened risk of flooding thanks to climate change. And typically, we've got anecdotally some data from our clients that previous suppliers struggle to match more than about 4 out of 5 properties. So they leave a data gap of 1 in 5 or 20%. What we're showing you here is that it's the cost of that gap. And our central thesis is that as those risks, as climate risks increase, the cost of not knowing about, say, a fifth of your portfolio leads to increased costs. So what we're seeing in an infographic here, green is properties with no flood risk, yellow where there's a known flood risk, you've spotted it through perhaps some flood mapping work. But the remaining 20%, there's no data on that. So within that final group, we expect 20% to have unknown data, and 70% of 20%, in other words, 3%, has risk which hasn't been spotted. The challenge with this is multiple. So first of all, obviously, you may be mispricing the mortgage. You may have overestimated the value of the property. The occupant themselves, the homeowner, may struggle to pay a mortgage if they're flooded. And also, let's consider for a moment the role of flood re here. So flood re is the government's reinsurance scheme, and they will insure properties which the private industry doesn't want to up until 2039. And I think the reason for that deadline, is the assumption that by that point, flood defences can be built, which is a working, good enough idea, if you like, if it wasn't for the fact that most flood risk, or some flood risk, is unknown. So if 3 out of 100 properties have flood risk and you don't spot it and it's there, who's therefore going to go and tell the homeowner or the landlord who's spotting these risks and helping us to manage them? If the data's lacking, then the answer is nobody. If you then extrapolate this to national level, you see deeper challenges. So 3% of loans are paid in flood risk. That basically means 18 billion at an industry level mortgages have heightened arrears risk, and that's threatening the valuation of 353 billion in property assets. So it can be a challenge, this data blind spot.